It's time for a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. This time I talk with Mandi Rudd from Brand Energy Marketing about giving back and Big Slick. What's up? Hey there, and welcome to a brand new edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a good friend of mine. I was actually looking around, surprised she'd not been on the show before. She is the owner of Brand Energy Marketing and also one-man band, Chief Bottle Washer. I think she's got a couple other titles on her business card, but Mandi Rudd, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So one of the things I know about you, Mandi, is you're involved in an event called Big Slick in Kansas City. So I just wanted to kind of start there, if that's okay. Can you talk a little bit about that event and what it's about and how you got involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up. Any opportunity to talk about this event is really exciting. It's called the Big Slick Weekend. It takes place every summer. And really, it's how it started is not at all what it has turned into. And, just talking about it, we get chills talking about it and the fact that we get to be involved in it. Basically, our five guys, our hosts, our hometown boys done good kind of thing, they all grew up in the area around Kansas City where we are and have gone off into the acting world. And they come back every summer to host a weekend event. They bring their celebrity friends, and we do an amazing amount of fundraising for a local nonprofit pediatric hospital. And the guys, we just call them our guys, our families are involved in it. And so that's sort of what makes it unique.
Yeah, that's really cool. So talk to me. So first of all, for those who don't know, who are the celebrities or the guys, and how is it that you kind of got involved?
Well, it started actually in 2009. Rob Riggle had he had attended an event or some sort of fundraising thing for Children's Mercy Hospital here in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And anybody whether you have kids, someone who has kids and they've been affected in a positive way by the hospital. And his thought was, this is a diamond in the rough. We got to do something. So he reached out to my brother, Paul, and said, hey, let's do this thing. I don't know, let's do a poker tournament for Children's Mercy. Are you in? Paul said, yeah, absolutely. And he said, okay, hey, why don't you call Jason Sudeikis? So they called Jason, also from here, and said, okay, yeah, let's do it. So from that series of phone calls to 9 weeks later was the first Big Slick Celebrity Weekend event. And how it was Rob's sister is a lawyer and his brother-in-law is in the hospitality industry. So he called them and said, hey, we're going to do this thing. Can you help us with that? And Paul called our mom, who at the time was in marketing and advertising, and said, hey, can you help us promote it? And Jason called his mom, who is one of the best travel agents in town, and said, hey, can you help us get, hotel and fly us all in, like our friends. That's how the first event started. And here we are many years later. We added also area guys, Kansas City guys, David Keckner and Eric Stonestreet, mm-hmm. to the mix. And now we have our five hosts, and Eric's sister is very much involved, as is David Keckner's sister. She's also in our promotional family here. Yeah. And my mom and I, and we just did our 10th year last year, raising to date over $10.5 million.
Wow.
And it's crazy how we got here.
That's so cool. And kudos to everybody involved on that. I think, it's so good in any time to hear about folks getting together to do some good in the world. So as you kind of alluded to, this event has become pretty big. It's become kind of huge. So I'm curious, what are some of the lessons you've learned working on an event of sort of that magnitude?
The first one is your pregame has to be really strong. I highly encourage vitamin infusions, B12 shots, and a lot of water, because we don't sleep, we get zero nutrition, and we may be having a few drinks throughout the weekend. It really is a Herculean effort. And, I talk about our five families. We joke, it's like The Sopranos, you got the five families. So, our five families sort of put together this incredible committee of friends who are family. They've become family. So we've got some of Rob's fraternity brothers, some of Paul's fraternity brothers, some of our good friends, our good mutual friend Dave Schultz does all our social media. So it really is this huge family affair. And it's a lesson in patience. It's a lesson in collaboration. It's a lesson in just passion. I mean, we do it's a weekend event, and it's very much like summer camp. We've got our alumni. And so to tell a little bit about the event, our guests come in. Our guys invite people whom they've worked with. So some of their celebrity friends come in. Friday morning, we kick the whole weekend off at the hospital with a press conference. And then we get to visit with the children and the families at the hospital.
That's got to be awesome.
That is by far, hands down, no questions asked, no dispute, no gray area. That is the best part of the whole weekend for everyone. Just to see these families going through what could potentially be the most horrific experience they've ever gone through. And for them, to take one brief moment of their pain away and replace it with a joyful smile, and just to allow them to escape their reality for the moment. That's why we do it. Cool. That's the best part of it. But like I said, it's like summer camp. There are antics throughout the weekend. We play a celebrity softball game at Kauffman Stadium, where the Kansas City Royals play on Friday evening. And then Saturday we do a bowling and bocce tournament. And then Saturday night, it's a party with music and auction and, comedians. And it's a variety show. And it's a lot of fun and very late nights. So
I bet.
Yeah.
I love the pre-game's got to be strong. That's a great advice for that and like Vegas, right?
It's kind of like Expo. Yeah. Absolutely. Kind of the same pregame.
I love it. Okay. So final question for you. So many people in the industry know you as a person that's sort of passionate about giving back and making a difference. So why are you so passionate about that? 'Cause you kind of alluded to it in the last question.
I grew up in a household like that, and thank you. That I'm flattered that that's the perception that maybe you're putting out there. No, I do. I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, if you have the ability to make a difference in someone's life or their day or anything, that's just our moral responsibility, I think, to do that as humans, just to be kind and help where you can. I grew up in a family where if one of us needed something and the other one had it, then we all had it. And if we didn't have it, then none of us had it. And so that just sort of worked its way into my passion for animal advocacy, rescuing shelter pets, or anything from keeping granola bars in my car. So if I see someone on a corner that I don't have enough cash in my wallet to make a difference, but I can't let someone go hungry. So I've been known to buy food or just to have, granola bars or something. And to the point now where my son even does that. He'll be like, "Mom, stop, I've got the granola bar."
Nice.
But I like that within our industry, specifically how we get to use promo for good. How it relates back to Big Slick. We do a limited edition t-shirt that people can buy. It's a collector's item. It raises money for the philanthropy. And so being able to use promotional products for good, I think, is another amazing opportunity that we have to continue the good. So.
That's cool.
But I think, if for being able to donate or volunteer, when you give back, it just helps you feel connected to a universal good. And we all have that ability, whether it's just to give someone a smile and change their day, or just a hello, how are you? Open the door for someone, buy a meal, donate, volunteer, whatever that looks like. We all have the ability to make a positive change in some way. And like I said, I feel like it's just our moral obligation to do so.
Well, and I love that, I think sometimes you got to look for that and kind of remind yourself of it. And I think one of the things that you just talked about is modeling that behavior for the next generation. And so I love that you're doing that for your son as well. So kudos. So you have answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me one. Do you have one for me?
I do.
Okay.
Everyone talks to you about content,
Yeah.
which I'm totally not going to because I'm
cool.
I know everybody does. The other one is beer.
All right.
So I know that you are a beer connoisseur and a beer producer, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to the brewing and having a physical location to brew your beer, do you miss doing that or not doing that, and not knowing what the current environment is like? How would you feel still being in that position?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, it's funny. for a long time, number one, the reason that I wanted to brew beer was because I like to drink beer. And that one of the things I think you realize when you start brewing beer, that's actually not, I mean, until you get into real mass quantities, it's not a really efficient way. Like it's much more efficient to just go buy it. Right. And what was cool for me is that I was not that guy, and I had to develop to be that guy in order to start the business. And so there are definitely days where it's like I really do miss kind of going to the workshop and kind of spending the time and creating something. And I was really proud to kind of develop that skill, and I was doing it kind of on my own. There wasn't like a workbook per se that I was following. I sort of made it up. And again, I was the guy who, when there was a technical issue, I usually would call one of my buddies who was the fix-it guy. Well, I had to become the fix-it guy because we didn't have another one to do that. And so there are days when I miss it. And then there are days where I'm like, I think, my true skill set is much more in the lane over here. And so, yeah, some days I miss it, but most days I think I'm sitting where I'm supposed to sit.
Right.
Fair?
You're better off the marketing, producing, and consuming rather than creating.
Yes, that's right. Sometimes all at the same time.
Exactly. Sometimes the marketing and the creative is better when you've been consuming.
Right. Yeah. But there's a turn.
Yes, and that's the lean.
Yeah, that's right. Well, cool. Yeah. Well, hey, Mandi, I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, you bet. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.